Welcome to the Utility Emergency Response Podcast, where we talk all things emergency response, disaster response to help your utility. I'm your host, Isaac Alatorre from Potable Pipeline Systems, leaders in the Layflat hose system industry. We have guest speakers who are experts in their field to help you and your utility get on the right foot. Let's get started with the episode. All right, let's go to number one. Know your hard pipe system size. The size of your system determines what kind of Layflat hose you're going to need. Well, what do I mean? If you have an 8-inch pipe system and that's all you have, then you're probably only going to need a certain size of Layflat hose to match it. Now, you don't have to match Layflat hose exactly with your hard pipe, but I think it's a stretch if you have 8-inch hard pipe and you have only 1-inch NSF hose on inventory. Instead, try to think in one or two different size differences when comparing to hard pipe. So for example, if you have an 8-inch hard pipe system, you probably can get away with just having a 6-inch Layflat hose system to bypass for your pressure and your volume. Do you want to have an option to feed directly into residential buildings, commercial buildings, even houses? Then you're probably going to need smaller sizes to do that, so you can feed into the meters and the hose bibs. Number two, know your fire hydrants. Now, why is this important? Because fire hydrants are not always the same. Here in California, our steamer connections are typically 4 and 4.5, and on the hose nozzle end, it's typically 2 and 2.5. Now, it's important to know this beforehand because NSF hose can be a little stubborn when you're connecting it. Make sure you have your adapters, all your reducers ready beforehand. That's why it's always good to think about fire hydrants and how you're going to connect to them way before you need it. Number three, know your risks. Are there any areas in your system that have vulnerabilities? For example, earthquakes. It's really good to cross-reference your hard pipe with your earthquake fault lines because those are more likely to break during an earthquake. Second one, if you have few entry lines into a system, for example, I had one customer who had one major line that fed about 200 homes, and he wanted a way to bypass that just in case it broke. Very valuable to have. Also, high pressure systems. If you have a high pressure system, you may need a PRV, special couplings, different fittings, high pressure fittings that match your Layflat hose. 4, know your neighbors. Why is this important? Well, does your neighbor have a Layflat hose system? Because you may want to coordinate with your neighbor, because what if he has a larger system and he might need a smaller system to complete a fleet of Layflat hose, which gives both of you guys larger range of Layflat hose availability and sizes. Now, this is where mutual aid comes very, very valuable because your neighbors are going to be one of your biggest assets in an emergency response or disaster response scenario. So maybe ask your neighbors, hey, we're looking at buying a Layflat hose system. What do you guys have? In an event of an emergency, can we use it? You can use ours. So there's all kinds of different things that you can work out together beforehand so that you guys can help each other during an emergency response or a disaster. Number 5, budget. So this is always the toughest part of buying a Layflat hose system is that a lot of times the customer wants a certain size trailer, a certain size inventory of Layflat hose, but they just can't afford it. So one of the things, 2 things you could probably do. Number 1, maybe buy just half of the system 1 year, and the next year you buy the other half of the system. That's one option. Also, second option, you may want to ask for a state grant or federal grant. There's plenty of the federal and state grants out there that pertain to emergency response equipment. So always be looking out for different options when it comes to budget. And remember to be safe and always think ahead. Well, responders, you made it to the end. I wanted to thank you for listening to this show. Please do me a solid and share this with one of your friends or coworkers in the utility industry so they can get benefit from such great information. Subscribe to this podcast, follow us on social media, Also, our email newsletter, which these episodes go directly to your inbox. Thank you for your time, and remember, be safe and think ahead.